Alright lads, it is that time of the month once again where I have to inform you of what is going to be coming up in this next month over on the NA version of the game, and that is going to be for the month of April, which I know some of you guys might be thinking April is going to be a sleeper, but I guarantee you there's some actual good nuggets in here for this month, especially because it seems as though Lasengel might be speeding up the schedule a little bit, with Sea Monster Crisis starting at the end of March and leading into April, as opposed to being, during the first week of April. So that means we're going to be getting through some of this content a little bit faster, and might maybe see some more of the more hype content maybe a week or two earlier this year. But that's going to be for a video on a later date. Today, we got to talk about what's coming in the month of April. But if you'd like to be informed of the goings-on both versions of the game, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you're most excited for with the month of April. But obviously, let me tell you what we're going to be getting first before you drop that comment. So first and foremost, obviously what should already be going live in a few days is going to be Sea Monster Crisis, which I know a lot of people are already overwriting. They're just not really paying too much attention to, but we are getting a few neat things in this event. First and foremost, we are getting a fairly decent, I would say, for more free-to-play players, craft essence that you're not going to want to level up to level 100 because it is a split attack and HP CE, and typically the only CEs that you want to level up are the ones that give you the 2000 attack, but the effects are still going to be very nice if you've just started the game, or maybe you're going to be summoning for Castoria fairly soon around the corner. This can be kind of nice as it is going to give you 10% quick arts and 8% NP damage with a 50% starting NP gauge, so that can be kind of nice if you don't have the craziest loopers. Maybe you can't just do Black Grail farming with double Castoria. This can be kind of nice to give you a little bit of extra damage. We're also going to be getting two pretty solid command codes from the event. The first one gives you 10% NP damage whenever you attack with the engraved cards, while also dropping 2 stars when attacking with the engraved card. This is fairly nice if you do have more NP1 servants, or even if you're going into a challenge quest. You can use this kind of like you would use, say, Summer Kama or Hokusai, these units that get these damage buffs on their on-attack cards. You can use this to get a little bit of extra damage before you fire that NP. And then the 4-star one is also fairly decent, as it is just a 5% NP gain buff on the engraved card, while also giving you 50% star weight on said card as well. I would recommend maybe throwing this on an arts card to make it just that much better, and also drawing more stars to that arts card so you can do arts crits to refund your NP. But obviously what I think the main draw for the event is going to be Morgan coming back, as if you missed out on her during the Lost Belt 6 release about 6 months ago, now is another really good time to go ahead and try to get her, although you might want to wait till later on this year, because I know a lot of people are saving for summer and anniversary. Castoria again is coming out in about a month. We have Charlemagne coming out, who's not the craziest servant ever, but is certainly very popular. You have Kriemhild coming out. There's just going to be a lot of very popular and strong returning servants coming out back to back to back to back to back. And so maybe if you can afford to hold out on going for Morgan, maybe wait till the end of the year, which I know is very crazy for me, the Morgan simp, to be saying, but with Castoria being right around the corner, that's probably going to be more impactful for your account than just having Morgan. But let's say you already do have Castoria, you're not going to summon for Charlemagne, maybe you're not going to even summon for Arcoid. You do definitely have enough time between now and, say, summer to save up a decent bit of quartz if you do want to summon for Morgan. And a servant that is on Morgan's banner is going to be Wu, who is getting a little bit of a buff. Nothing super crazy. She's going to be giving the party 10% battery and a little bit of extra crit damage. It's nothing super insane, but it is kind of nice. It's a neat little thing that they're going to be giving her. This event also is a nice way to kind of stock up on a couple of silver apples that you might have lost during the lotto. We have these production quests that you're going to go in with the little baby guys that you saw, Morgan of all the fan art with. You'll use those dudes and get a whole bunch of silver apples back. So it's kind of a nice recovery event right after a lotto. Now, I'm not trying to skip over the main new unit, that being the Trung Sisters or the free-to-play. I just know that Tai Sui and Trung Sisters are probably going to get overlooked a little bit, but Tai Sui can be a very solid arts, kind of curse DPS type servant if you need him to be so, especially with the new CE that we just got on JP that gives you a power mod for having curse. He can be fairly decent with that. And the Trung Sisters, I mean, while they are limited, they are kind of functionally competing with the Dioscuri twins, who I prefer a little bit more, as the Dioscuri twins have kind of like the pierce everything on their own NP, whereas the Trunk sisters are more of a sustain and stacking unit, as they build up their damage every time they fire an NP, and they give everybody HP, which again can be very nice if you're, say, doing a double Castoria team where you're not really healing at all. They can give you a little bit of sustain if you're really maintaining those strong solemn defense hits. You know, you've got like 3 or 4 going at a time, then you know you have enough time to kind of build up your healing. And then they have an interesting gimmick, kind of like the Dioscuri twins, where the Dioscuri twins kind of turn their quick cards into arts cards and their arts cards into quick cards. They kind of do reverse stacking. When you attack with their buster cards, they get an arts buff. When you attack with their arts cards, you get a buster buff, right? Like, it's kind of just the inverse thing of whatever card that you're going to be using. So they can do some nice stacking damage. They do have a solid 30% battery if you do need to use them for some type of farming. Again, 30% battery plus, say, a maxed out a pen skill pretty much says they already have 50%, any event 50% starting charge CE. They'll be absolutely fine to just rip and tear through people. But again, they are more of a stacking unit. I could see some arguments for them being maybe better than Dioscuri in some scenarios, but generally you're probably just better off using Dioscuri anyway. I'll go more in depth on them when they actually do come out, but just as kind of a heads up, that's my general thoughts if you're thinking about summoning for them or not summoning for them. Now, there might be some small minor campaigns in between the Sea Monsters Crisis and the Learning with Manga collaboration event, probably just the pre-release campaign for the Learning with Manga campaign. Maybe they'll add in the Road to Lost Belt 7, you know, Lost Belt 3 in the middle of there, which will bring a lot of those servants back, but there's really no major servant buffs, and it's just the Recollection quest again. So really, if anything's going to kind of pop out of nowhere, it might be some advanced quests. Maybe it'll be Road to Lost Belt 3, something along those lines. But you'll know that Learning with Manga is fully underway once we actually get the pre-release campaign, which is very good. I will not let people say that the Learning with Manga event is not good just because Super Bunyan is kind of painfully mid. She's not bad, she's not good, she's just painfully mid, which honestly might be a little worse than being just straight up bad. But just because the headlining unit's not the best doesn't mean the event itself is bad. The pre-release campaign starts off very, very strong. Altera, Tama Lancer, Ann and Bonnie Reed Summer, Summer Helena, and then even the OG Ann and Mary Reed are both all going to be getting buffs, and they're all fairly decent. Altera's getting a battery. They fixed the 3rd skill on Tama Lancer. They actually give the Summer variant of Ann and Mary, you know, they give them a battery, and then they give the other version a way to bomb stars so they can actually crit a bit harder. And then Helena, they tried to buff her flat damage buff while also giving the entire party a battery. It's kind of nice, more of a step in the right direction for her, but still not the craziest, but it is very nice. And all of these units, plus a couple extra, like say Saber Astolfo, are going to be going up on rate up. And this event also brings a really, really strong free-to-play CE that everybody needs to make sure that they max out. Cranking is one of those CEs that you actually start to see in different damage calcs that do actually affect how much damage you're doing, because cranking is just that strong. For one, it is an attack CE. If you have the ability or you have the patience to go ahead and max out this C and max out the level using CE bombs or whatever have you, it's a good idea because it's a 2k attack CE that gives you 8% buster, 15% NP damage, and starts you with 50% NP gauge, meaning it's friendly with pretty much any 30 to 50% battery buster unit. It gives you a solid NP damage buff, meaning Oberon really likes it, and then it also is an attack CE for bonus attack with a decent little buster buff in there just for a little smidge of extra damage. It is a very good CE that I think everyone needs to make sure that they max out. There's also the fact that this event kind of functions like a miniature lotto, and what I mean by that is there are these excavation quests where you're either going to use a pickaxe, a hammer, or a shovel, and you're going to dig for different rewards. You know, with the pickaxe, you can get like mana prisms, proofs, chains. With the mallet, you can get 1,000,000 QP at a time, dragon fangs, stakes, stingers. With the shovel, you can get dust, bones, bullets, which I know we just got some of those on the lotto, but you can never have too much, am I right? Because as soon as you get enough, it all seems to disappear. So you can get really nice things from this event by doing the excavations over here. It's kind of like the last summer event that we just had over here on NA, where there's kind of a mini lotto feature, and a lot of the events this year are gonna have stuff like that, where there is just some mini extra thing thrown into the event that makes it just that more worthwhile doing. Now, Yes, unfortunately, the headlining unit, Super Bunyan, is not the craziest servant in the world. She revolves around this mechanic that's baked into her passive skills that whenever she attacks, she grants herself a like, and that like translates to extra damage on her NP. You can get decent damage, I suppose. Some of her skills look fine on paper, but really, the issue that I see a lot of people have with this servant is that their damage just really isn't all that impressive out the gate, and you could put in the effort to kind of get more damage out of her. I mean, her skills again aren't the worst thing in the world, they're not the craziest, but it's just a lot of effort for something you could probably get off rip with a lot of other single target buster units. You know, you gotta have to build up with her a little bit, and it's like she raises the overcharge, but her overcharge is lowering defense and it doesn't even proc first. It almost feels like she's a unit that probably should have come out unironically maybe when the Berserker Bunyan came out, because if she came out around that time, she'd be more in line with the power level and maybe she would have gotten a buff, honestly. But if you do decide to summon on this banner, there is a pretty decent CE on Raid Up. It's going to be called Adventures in the Children Kingdom. It is an attack CE that gives you Pierce Invul, and if you do decide to max limit break it, 20% crit damage and 20% NP gain. But even if you don't, 15% for crit and NP gain. It's not a bad CE to bring if you're going to be going into challenge quests, because again, having that Pierce Invul just baked into that servant, always having that readily available is going to be good, and having the extra crit damage and the NP gain obviously is also going to be good. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention that there's also kind of a little funny thing you can do here with the Friend Point campaign, because we're going to be getting a limited 1-star unit in the Friend Point gacha. Her name is Mary Anning, and one of the main reasons you want to go really hard on the Friend Point gacha is that, you know how I mentioned, well, you want to level up cranking, you want to do CE bombs. You will be able to get 4- and 3-star Craft Essence EXP cards from the Friend Point gacha, but you can also summon Mary Anning a ton of times, sell all of her coins for extra grails, right? It is one of the key things in going for some of these limited servants. If you want to 120 them, you want to do all her pen skills, you're more than fine to do that, but what a lot of people are going to do is pull really hard so they can do their CE bombs, and then all these extra Mary Anning points that they get, all these extra coins, they're going to sell so they can get an extra 2 grails every single month. Which I know a lot of you guys are forgetting about. Don't forget that you can sell your Spartacus coins if you're never gonna 120 or do as a pen skills. You know, you can go ahead and sell those and collect grails for servants you're probably gonna actually use. And Mary Anning, again, being in the Friend Point gacha is very good for that. But with that being said, that's pretty much all that we know that's guaranteed to be coming out for the month of March. We could maybe see, you know, Trom release towards the end of the month, but that would probably be very end of April leading into May. I'm not gonna bank on them dropping Sea Monster Crisis, Learning with Manga, and Trom. That seems a little bit ridiculous, even with Sea Monsters Crisis starting about a week earlier than it did on the JP version. It's still a fairly long event. You know, these are still like 3-week long events or something, so we're still going to need time to get Sea Monsters Crisis done and then move into Learning with Manga. But Learning with Manga is a very strong event. Sea Monsters Crisis might be a little bit slower, but hey, at least for me, it's an excuse to simp for Morgan. Anytime Morgan goes on Raid Up, you best believe I'm going to be out there on the front lines telling everybody that they got to go summon for this unit. But obviously, take my advice in this video, because those other videos won't be lying, but I will be in full simp mode, believe you me. But hopefully this video was helpful for you and you are very well prepared for what is going to be coming out in the month of April. If it does help you out, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe. Let me know what you're looking forward to most in the month of April, and let me know if you like this style of covering the upcoming stuff, because I like to do these at the end of every month leading into the next NA month. Since we have a 2-year gap, we might as well take advantage of it and use our clairvoyance. And I thought instead of just kind of like going over the wiki, I would just, you know, throw out the gameplay for the new servants that might be coming out, because it might be fairly relevant. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.